Which state is the most underrated in producing good football teams? But the answer is the great state of Utah. They're putting out more winning products than Apple right now.
They were going to use the Utah game to get right. Utah's not a team you just use to get right. That's not them.
What is going on? Welcome to Life Elevated State of Utah Football. I'll be covering everything football related in the state of Utah. We'll start up north in Logan, head all the way down to Provo. We'll even highlight some high school athletes to support on those Friday night lights. So let's start in Logan with the Utah State Aggies. Now, with Blake Anderson, he's been put on leave with the expectation of him not returning. Now, you guys can Google the reasons behind it and everything that's taken place. You can also take a look at how the athletic director was trying to cover her own backside by firing other prevalent members within the program, claiming that she was unaware of the issues at hand, only to be fired herself. It's disappointing all around from top to bottom. It was a situation that was happening prior to Blake Anderson's arrival in Logan. Now, before his arrival, the culture, the program, the morale was in the gutter. Previous head coach Gary Anderson, he came back home to try to save the program. He simply couldn't do it. Now, when Gary Anderson left the program, it was very mysterious. There were some people saying he was fired, other people saying that he stepped down. It all happened very secretive and very just in mysterious ways and just dark. But the prevailing thought is that it was a bigger issue than football. The program was a mess. I don't think many people remember that there was a revolt that was happening within the program. Players were accusing coaches and other staff within the entire Utah State administrative program that there were some underlying racial and religion issues that were taking place. Blake Anderson came in all the way from Arkansas State. He needed a new beginning, and so did Utah State. It seemed like a perfect marriage at the time. Blake also brought an entire new coaching staff in, but again, all the stuff is out there. Whatever it is, here we are. People were let down. At the end of the day, it comes down to that. Everybody deflecting blame off them and placing it on other people, but at the end of the day, they were here to do one thing, and that was protect these young men and women, and they let them down. Now, it's something that had to be talked about on here since we are covering the entire state of Utah. So I did want to cover that, but I want to transition away from that to what is going to happen going forward with the football program. The interim coach is Nate Dreiling. He was handpicked by Blake Anderson to fix the defense. He will now be in charge to fix the entire program, similar to what Blake Anderson was put in place to do when he was hired. So who exactly is Nate Dreiling? He is 33 years old. He played linebacker, a Division II All-American. Now, he began his coaching career in 2015. He was a grad assistant at the University of Kansas. He then went back to his alma mater, Pittsburgh State, from 2017 to 2019. In the year 2020, he went to Oregon to become the defensive analyst there, and he learned under Mario Cristobal. So he did take a lot from Cristobal, and he is considered a part of Cristobal's tree. Now, most recently, he was the defensive coordinator for New Mexico State. Dreiling took over a New Mexico State defense that in 2021 ranked 127th in the nation. There's only like 133 teams, so he took over a pretty bad team. In his first year there, they ranked 29th in overall defense. So it was also his defense that helped them beat Auburn and hold Auburn to 10 points last year. And it was simply a masterful performance. Dreiling put on a clinic and showed why he was deserving of a bigger opportunity. Now, during the spring showcase at Utah State, the defensive unit was lively and active. I was there, I was watching the game. The entire defensive unit was having fun. There was life that was infused into them. They were playing fast and they were playing proactive instead of being reactive. And it was a defensive unit that I was pretty impressed with. Now, Dreiling will now have to infuse that to the offense. And recently at the Mountain West Media Days in Las Vegas, he pretty much said that they're going to be relying on standout wide receiver Jalen Royals, and that Royals is someone who's going to be a first or second round NFL pick. That's something that I've said all along since October, so we're very simpatico right there. Now, he did also state that Spencer Petras, the quarterback, is still the starter for the start of fall camp. Now, not much is expected to change within the offensive unit, within how the plays are being run, what kind of plays that they will utilize. It will pretty much be the same. Now, the players are rallying around the coach and around one another and the football staff and the football program. So they're not disbanding, they're coming together, they're trying to do what's best for them and for the team. So they are, for the most part, from everything that I'm hearing, they are staying put. They, I believe, do have the opportunity to opt out and transfer out. But with it being quite late in the process, that would be pretty difficult to land in a new program, to kind of learn a new playbook, and to get playing time that year. So I would expect the majority of these players to stay this year, and we'll have to see what happens once we hit the winter portal. Now, I just don't really know what's going to happen with the program, but we'll have to see what happens as fall camp takes place in Cache Valley. So let's head down the 89 to the 15 freeway and down to Salt Lake City and check in with the Utah Utes. Now, Utah is now in the Big 12. We just had their Big 12 media days, and we had some news come out from that. Head coach Kyle Whittingham said he's day to day. Now, they did name defensive coordinator Morgan Scalley as the head coach in waiting. He will be getting a pay bump of $5 million a year when that does happen. Now, a little bit of insight for the state of Utah employees. The Utah state employees, once they hit their 30-year mark at their job, they get full pension. Everything is guaranteed for them, and they're pretty much set for life. This is Whittingham's 30th year. If he wins the Big 12, make a run into the 12-team playoff, he can then retire, go into the sunset, and enjoy a full pension, knowing that he did everything that he could for that program, and then everything is now in the hands of his hand-picked defensive coordinator to be their new head coach. Now, Cam Rising, he is someone that he actually has 2 more years of eligibility. I don't know how that happens, but he does. He did state that this will be his last year, though. Now, Rising has been full go ahead of fall camp. Everything should go well with Rising, and there's a lot to be excited about in Salt Lake City. Now, his wide receiver 1 will be Dorian Singer, who's been flashy all spring, and they formed a connection. Now, the former walk-on at Arizona, who kind of took a stumble last year at USC, is looking to rebound, and these two could be a dangerous duo in the new Big 12. Now, let's head back down to the 15 and head down to Provo and talk BYU Cougars. Now, BYU was picked to finish 13th in the Big 12. Is longtime head coach Kalani Sitake in trouble? Now, there's rumblings locally about not being able to compete in the Big 12, but Sitake is handcuffed. He's obligated to recruit certain type of players. They have to go on 2-year missions and have to go away. And so it's very tough for a head coach to kind of figure out who's coming in, who's leaving, kind of being able to recruit some guys, not being able to recruit certain guys. They can only recruit JUCO guys for guys who aren't going to be in missions. It's a very tricky situation that I don't think many people realize how tough it is. It leaves Sitake limited with the kind of athletes he can bring in and the kind of recruits that he can kind of really go after. Now, if someone isn't a devout LDS Mormon, it is very tough for Kalani Sitake to kind of take him in. They have to kind of do some stipulations where, you know, the individual might not do a 2-year mission while they're in the university, but they kind of have to do some work on the side. And then in the future, it just becomes a lot of paperwork and a lot of red tape that a lot of athletes don't want to go through. So I think that's one thing that BYU fans need to take into consideration, because if you're dependent on mission guys coming back after 2 years, being older, and being able to be fundamentally sound on the football field, you don't have realistic expectations. That's just simply not possible. With Sitake, the goal is always to be tough in the trenches, have a good running team, and to find a dual threat quarterback. If he finds that recipe, he can win 8-9 games, and that in itself is a success. Can he do that every single year? No. I don't think so. It's just not feasible in this day and age of the portal. Now, it's hard to replicate that every year, and because there really isn't anybody as good as Sitake to take over. So if you do fire him, who are you going to replace? Who are you going to find that's going to do a better job than what Kalani Sitake has done at BYU? Now, I hope BYU is smart and realize that they need to be patient. This is going to be a 3-4 year window. And this year, they're not going to be a 8-9 win program. At best, they're going to be shooting for 5 to 6 wins and hoping to get bowl eligible. Now, on to BYU. I want to talk about Lavell Edwards Stadium getting a facelift. Now, they did replace their 15-year-old turf with some new grass, and it absolutely looks beautiful. They got a facelift. It looks nice. One of the most majestic backgrounds in all of college football, and it's going to look absolutely beautiful for the upcoming season. It'll be interesting at the quarterback position on who wins that job for Kalani Sitake. The incumbent is Jake Retzlaff, who last year the game was simply too fast for him. He did not look good. He was someone that had a lot of issues. And then the other option is the transfer Jerry Bohannon, who looks to take over that job. He is now fully healthy, and this is going to be a camp battle that probably will take place up until the very last week of fall camp. So it'll be interesting to see who wins that job. I think for everyone involved, Jake Retzlaff should be the guy because he is a little bit younger. He does have a nice arm and good mobility, but you have Jerry Bohannon, who's been in college football for what seems to be on 6-7 years, and is someone that does have Big 12 experience. And one final thing for BYU and Utah, the Holy War. It takes place November 9th at Rice Eccles, and while the tradition of the game taking place, Thanksgiving weekend is gone, the fact that the game is back should reunite the divided fan base. Now let's finish with some of the top high school prospects in the state of Utah. The number one recruit in the state is wide receiver Jerome Myles. He's a 5-star in the composites. He's 6'3", 220 pounds. He runs a 4.48 in the 40. Now, he started running track this offseason, and in his first year at track, he broke a 43-year-old Utah State record in the 100-meter dash. He ran at 10.36. Now, he did decommit from Ole Miss, and there's a lot of internal issues with Ole Miss right now. Utah is trying very hard to keep him home. They're trying to pair him back with Isaac Wilson, the fellow standout from Corner Canyon High School. Texas A&M is hard after him. USC, UCLA, Michigan is after him. Alabama's reported after him. Pretty much every program out there is trying to covet the Utah prospect. Now, for those of you that don't know, Corner Canyon High is a powerhouse program who's developed, players kind of like a Zach Wilson, Jackson Powers Johnson, Jackson Dart, Devin Brown, and Isaac Wilson. Corner Canyon opens the season August 10th at American Fork before a very fun matchup at IMG Academy on August 23rd. Now, with Isaac Wilson at the University of Utah now, the Chargers were able to pick up a very exciting quarterback prospect coming in from Timpview High. Class of 2026 four-star Helaman Casuaga. As a freshman for Timpview last year, Casuaga threw for 4,145 yards, 34 touchdowns, and won the 5A state title. Now, Casuaga now moves up to 6A Corner Canyon, but there's not going to be any drop off in production for what I believe with Corner Canyon. Casuaga is going to be simply outstanding. He's going to be the next in line at Corner Canyon with that quarterback prestige. I'm looking forward to the connection with Casuaga in Myles, and it's going to be absolutely fun to watch all season long. When Casuaga was asked about why he transferred, he said that he wanted to keep improving. He wanted to expand his knowledge. He wanted to gain experience, and he was honest. He said to be part of that lineage at Corner Canyon, of being with the best quarterbacks in Utah history was something that he wanted to be part of. He wanted to be next in line. So I wanted to thank you for tuning in. Utah is an underrated state for football, but we'll put the spotlight on it for you, and we'll see you next week on Life Elevated.
Which state is the most underrated in producing good football teams? But the answer is the great state of Utah. They're putting out more winning products than Apple right now.
They were going to use the Utah game to get right. Utah's not a team you just use to get right. That's not